Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today it is a buy one, get one free on axes at the Norscan bargain sale. We have Marauder Berserkers all across the field as we have a Norscan versus Vampire Count matchup for you here today. I am leading the forces of Norsca, and Tank is leading his accursed Vampire Counts. So for the build that I have brought for you today, we do have 5 Marauder Berserkers. We have axes for days, ladies and gentlemen. We have 2 War Mammoths with War Shrines, giving a nice little buff to leadership for the surrounding troops. We have Throg with Fight or Die and the Wintertooth Crown. We have the Skinwolf Werekin, and we have the Fimir Balefiend of Fire as well, coming in with Fireball and Burning Head. So for this build, we have the already high leadership of the Marauder Berserkers mixed in with the War Mammoth, the Wintertooth Crown, and Fight or Die. So we have a pretty much unbreakable formation here. As you can see, the Marauder Berserkers have a whopping 103 leadership as the buff from the War Shrines is in effect. And these War Shrines, they also have the Giver of Glory, which gives off fire damage, as well as an additional 16 leadership and melee attack. So the leadership is just insane for these Norscan forces today. But for the Vampire Counts, if we kind of take a little swing out, we have Blood Knights on the flanks here. So a pair of those units to wrap things off. In the sky, we have the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord. And as you know, that Blood Dragon has quite an assortment of abilities. So we have the Hunger, we have Invocation, we have Raise Dead, and Van Hell's Dance Macabre. Of course, we have Helm of Discord, which the Blood Dragon is best known for. And we have Heart Piercing on top of that, giving some nice armor sundering. But that Helm of Discord, minus 24 melee attack and defense. Very good. Now the forces of Norsca, their Marauders, have a very high base stat value as well. If we take a quick look, they have 48 and 24, so that will pretty much put their melee defense to 0, so they're taking a ton of damage with that Helmet Discord popped. But for the rest of the forces, we have the zombies for the front line. We have 5 of those, very standard for any Vampire Counts build. Very cheap, 100 gold infantry, pretty much the best chaff in the game you can get. Then behind them, we have 4 regular Graveguard, a very decent melee combatant. No Sternsman, though. We have a Corpse Cart giving nice Vigor Mortis plus 5 to melee attack and melee defense. A fantastic little ability for any blobbing gameplay. We also have 2 Cryptors who have their poison attacks, armor piercing, and they are great for holding in the mass of the Norscan forces. So Throg, Werekin, even the Mammoths, they'll do very well at keeping them in their place to allow the Blood Dragon to get its charges in, to allow the Blood Knights to get their charges in, and that will wrap things up though for the builds, as let's get things going as the Norscan forces are advancing from the tree line. Looks like we have a Fireball coming in, targeting that Blood Dragon, doing a very nice little dip and dodge as he does a pretty much feigns a charge against the Marauders, as that Fireball then careens harmlessly over his head and into the middle of no man's land. At this point, the Norscans, they do have quite a few less troops, so they will be going to engage on one side of the flanks as best they can. So they are going to be targeting the Vampire Count's right flank. We have some Blood Dragons coming in, Blood Knights, sorry, but the Blood Dragon does drop in on one of the Marauder Berserkers. We have the Skinwolf Werekin and Throg coming in to kind of get some nice attacks off. The Werekin does get a 1 attack, doing a nice little bit of damage, but a summon of zombies coming in as the Norscans will try and disengage from this engagement. But it looks like the War Mammoth is going to be coming in, getting a nice charge off onto Blood Knights. So that is actually fairly decent. The War Mammoth, its charge does so much work against Blood Knights. Right now, the Norscan forces are a little separated, but there isn't anything that can really punish that separation at the time being. The War Mammoth in the middle of some more Blood Knights and zombies and Graveguard. But the Berserkers, who are doing what they do best, engaging with some of the zombies on this front line, already taking them down to half health. Marauder Berserkers trying to get in, shut down this Corpse Cart as quick as they can. Get rid of that little buff to melee attack and melee defense. Another summon coming down, trying to separate the Norscans as best they can, though Throg, the Werekin, and the Mammoth all have a considerable amount of mass, so it's going to be very hard to pin them in. But here comes those Crypt Horrors that pretty much going to do what they do best, as they try to get a nice little surround off and pin in Throg, who is now between a rock and a hard place, as the Crypt Horrors keep him in, and the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord is going to be able to come in and out. But he has taken a nice little bit of damage from Throg himself. Now these two Berserkers and the War Shrine have pretty much mopped things up. I believe that was maybe even a couple units of zombies and a Graveguard unit. But now these Berserkers will be coming in to support the rest of the leadership department of the Norscans. So we have, the War Shrine is engaged right now with the Crypt Horrors, and Throg is engaged as well with the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord. Now the Blood Dragon will be able to, he should be able to win that engagement, especially with cycle charging. Throg is a very much an anti-large combatant, and he will do quite a number on the Blood Dragon as well. Of course, the Blood Dragon has summons and all of that. Now, Throg is terrified right now, and just before he is able to pop the Wintertooth Crown to give himself unbreakable, he does rout right now, and there is quite a mass of units surrounding him, as both of the Blood Knights are in this engagement, though the War Mammoth is doing a ton of damage, and a burning head cutting through his unit of Graveguard. It is going through a unit of the Marauder Berserkers, so a bit of friendly fire there, but clipping a lot of the Vampire Count's forces as it goes off into the sunset. We have 3 more Marauder Berserkers on the fringes of this engagement, trying to deal with a couple units of zombies. They will deal with them fairly quickly, but it is time spent out of that main engagement. One of the Mammoth with War Shrines does actually break in this situation. Marauder Berserkers trying to clean up everything on the outside so they can get as much of a surround off as they can. A nice little breath coming in, doing as much damage as it can, and the Blood Dragon gets a nice charge into the Skinwolf Werekin. Now the Werekin is also an anti-large combatant, not as good as Throg, but he will do fairly well, and he does have regen, so he will have a bit of healing, so not as potent as the Blood Dragons, but he will get a nice regen over time. But the Blood Dragon and the surrounding horses trying to goon out this War Mammoth with War Shrine, trying to break the back of these Norscan forces. But as you can see, the only thing that's really wavering right now is the Mammoth itself. The Helm of Discord is popped, so a lot of these units will have very low melee defense, about half of their original melee attack for the Berserkers, but that has expired now, and the Marauders are going to continue to just chew through the engagements, as the War Shrine is able to pull out for the time being, regain some of its leadership as it does come back into the fight, giving that leadership buff to the surrounding Berserkers in this engagement. The Blood Knights are charging in here and there, trying to get as much cycle charging in as they can, but that War Mammoth is just such a beast, and another Burning Head is going to be cutting through some of the units, going through these zombies, and clipping through a unit of Blood Knights as well. Pretty much just trying to delete as much of the chaff as they can. It looks like we also have a Fireball is going to be arcing its way towards that Blood Dragon. Pretty much the only big target left, and it is connecting fairly well as the Werekin tries to get on top of it. But it is going to pull out, at least for the time being. The Graveguard is the only infantry left for the Vampire Counts at this time. Balance of power now very much in the Norscan favor. The Blood Knights trying to get a nice little cycle charge in, but I think it is just a little too few here and there for the Vampire Counts to deal with things. A nice breath does quite a bit of damage onto the War Mammoth. Those breath attacks are quite a fearsome thing against single entities. I think had that been directly overhead, it may have been enough to even drop that Mammoth on the spot. But right now the Mammoth is likely going to be routing from the field. It's probably going to be shattering as well, especially with the Blood Knights. They should be able to disengage as a summon of zombies went down to allow for all of the Blood Knights and Blood Dragon to disengage from this engagement. Though the Berserkers are going to deal with that summons very quickly, as we still have all 5 of the Marauder Berserkers still on the field, which is quite something indeed. Not a single unit has routed. So I think the only things that have been able to get away from the field have been the Mammoths and Throg. Otherwise, everything else is still on the field. We have the Werekin, who is almost at full health now with all of his regen. The Blood Knights are charging in, but they are crumbling right now, and they will be disintegrating into the ground, and that is the last of their units. It is just down to the Blood Dragon. He gets a nice breath attack off onto the Femur Balefiend, trying to break the leadership as best he can, but these Berserkers with their high leadership is just refusing to back down, and they are getting a very good surround off onto the Blood Dragon as another fireball is going to arc its way in and land smack dab into the side of this Blood Dragon Vampire Lord. Though the first Berserker unit has routed now that all of the 2 War Shrines have left the field, so they don't have that pretty much unbreakable leadership left. They are getting a surround off then as one of the units pulls through behind the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord to get a very good surround off to get a leadership penalty on the Blood Dragon this time, as it is now wavering and is going to be crumbling very soon. And there it goes, disintegrating into the ground, and Norsca will take this match. So yeah, take a look at the after battle report. So this was in Dahv Plays King of the Hill the other day, and funnily enough, I did play tank in the last ECL tournament. I believe it was the ECL, where he played the Norscan forces against my counts. Now, he brought this exact build that I used, so I did kind of steal that from him, used his own build against him in a way, and it does wonders against the counts. I mean, look at these kills that the Marauder Berserkers got. 210 kills for this unit and 236 for the other unit. Now, of course, those are against zombies, but they are also doing a lot of work to Graveguard. I mean, even the Blood Knights weren't able to rack up as many kills as they could have. And, I mean, the War Mammoths themselves, 148 and 70. Just such a lawnmower army that they've got here. So taking a look at what the Vampire Counts brought, I mean, pretty much just had to capitalize on the fact that with this Norscan army, you have a lot less to deal with. There's a lot less that the Norscans are able to protect, and I think having the 2 Blood Knights, they really needed to divide and conquer. I did provide that opportunity a little earlier on, but eventually I was able to condense those forces, and it was proved to be too much for the Vampire Counts to be able to deal with. But yeah, that will be our game, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you all enjoyed the battle, and as always, have a good one.